here's 10 things that you need to do to help keep your outboard running well for almost ever. Stick around for number 1 because it is something simple that you can do to avoid the most common issue that I get asked about. I'm no pro mechanic. If you got more ideas, you got better ideas, put them down in the comment. Let's go. Number 10. Never start your outboard when it's not in the water. It drives me crazy. Almost every time I go to the boat ramp, somebody is starting their motor in the parking lot. Their excuse, it's not gonna overheat if I just run it for a minute. That's true, but there's a water impeller in the lower end unit that circulates water. It uses water as lubrication. So when you run it dry, you run the risk of destroying that water impeller. Before we get to number 9, I have a bonus item for you. Actually, I forgot about it when I was recording out on the water, but honestly, it's probably the most important thing that you can do, and that is run your motor. The worst thing that you possibly can do is have your motor sit for a long period of time without running it. Gas in your carb's gonna gum up. You're gonna possibly get corrosion in your cylinder because of the condensation. If you are gonna have to let it sit for a long period of time without using it, you really need to use an engine fogger. This is gonna coat all the internal surfaces with a little bit of oil, prevent condensation from causing corrosion. Oh, and hit subscribe, like, and all that fun stuff that you get tired of hearing. And I need a favor, share this with 130,000 people. Number 9 also has to do with cooling water. You need to check that your motor is pissing out the telltale cooling water every time you start it when you go out on a trip. Because if you run it without cooling water flowing through the motor, you will destroy it in a matter of a few minutes. It will overheat. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that cooling system. Your impeller could be damaged. You could get some sort of obstruction and it could get clogged up. Number 8, I know nobody reads their owner's manual. I don't know, I enjoyed reading mine. Just take 10 minutes, read through your owner's manual. There may be something that you don't know about your specific motor that you need to know that you could damage it. Number 7, if you get a new motor, you gotta do the new motor break-in process. It's not ready to go full RPMs all out, right out of the box, right out of the factory. It's gotta go through a couple of hours of low RPMs and low load in order to get it broken in. In the wintertime, you've got to winterize your motor because water can get in your lower end unit and water can get stuck in the cooling system of your motor, and when it freezes, water expands and it could crack your engine. It could crack your lower end unit and it could crack your block if you still got water in it. So you've got to, before the winter, make sure that all the water is drained out of the cooling system in the engine block. Do that by making sure that it's in the upright position. It's designed to gravity flow out. Flush the motor to make sure that there's no blockages in there that's holding water. And you have to change your lower end unit oil before every winter, because if you have a bad seal, you get water in your lower end unit and it's gonna freeze and it's gonna crack and cause you a lot of headache. Number 6, if you've got a small outboard like this, when you store it, it has to be in a certain position. If you store it in the wrong position, motor oil, because it's a 4-stroke, has engine oil, it can leak through the crankcase breather into your cylinders and just cause you a lot of problems. Number 5 is something that I don't do that I need to start doing, and that is flushing the motor after every other use, because you can get algae and you can get buildup in that cooling system that can block cooling water from flowing. My excuse was I'm not in salt water, so I don't have risk of corrosion of the engine block, but it doesn't matter. I need to start flushing it to make sure I don't have any blockages and I'm not gonna overheat this guy. Number 4, try not to go open throttle, wide open throttle right when you get in the water. It's good to let it warm up for a couple of minutes. It's good to get that engine oil up to operating temp. So let it warm up a couple of minutes before you just give it all you got. Number 3, ignoring corrosion. You should inspect this guy every year for corrosion around the block, lower end unit, because if you got corrosion, you got a leak. Something's going on that you need to address, and it's not gonna get better. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna allow water in, it's gonna start leaking fluids out, and it could cause a major issue. Number 2, if you have a 4-stroke like this, you've got to change the oil every 100 hours or every season, because it is basically the lifeblood of a 4-stroke. You don't do mix, so it has to have that clean engine oil to lubricate all of the pistons and the rings and everything. So you've got to change the oil every year, every 100 hours, and make sure you check it a couple of times a year, because if you run it low, that's going to be one of the quickest ways that you can ruin this guy. Number 1, the most common thing that I get asked in YouTube comments has to do with carb issues. And with little motors like this,
with EPA regulations, they're going to go tighter and tighter on tolerances to lower emissions, and any kind of buildup or gunk in your carb in a small outboard like this is going to cause you a lot of issues. It's going to cause you starting issues, it's going to cause you motor bogging issues, it's going to cause dead spots when you go to accelerate. So the easiest thing that you can do to make sure that you don't have any carb issues is, number one, don't use gas that has ethanol in it. Standard gas at a gas station has 10% ethanol. That's fine for a car that's cycling the gas a lot, that has high pressure fuel injectors, but the guy like this that has a carburetor, ethanol gas is a disaster. It attracts water, it breaks down, it's not as shelf stable as non-ethanol gas. And what that means is it's going to cause buildup, it's going to cause moisture, and just a bunch of bad things. I use Stable 360 Marine. It is an ethanol gas treatment and a fuel stabilizer, so I don't have to worry about it. Bonus item, probably the fastest way if you're out on the water you can destroy this guy is not hitting a stump, it's not hitting a rock. That'll mess your prop in your lower end unit, but more than likely it's not going to destroy your motor. It's having a rope hanging off the side of your boat. If you're going full RPMs and you've got an anchor rope hanging over and that gets pulled off into the water and gets wrapped around your prop at full RPMs and that seizes up the prop, that's going to destroy your motor shaft, and that's probably going to do a lot of internal damage. So you got to make sure that you don't get anything wrapped around that prop going full speed, or it will just bind up and just do a lot of issues internally with your motor. I appreciate the view. Thank you. As always, get out there on the water, have fun, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.